Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. I'm your host, founder, and executive director, Voices for Voices, Justin Allen Hayes. Hey, thank you for joining us. If you can give us a big thumbs up, subscribe, like, share, comment on this episode and the others in our catalog, we would greatly appreciate it. Thank you. We want to reach that gigantic goal that I have of helping 3 billion people over the course of my lifetime and beyond. And we would be just ecstatic if you could help us with that. Well, we do also have our merch shop up and running, a lot of new items. You've seen me in the last number of episodes having that new merchandise on me, so you can check that out at voicesforvoices.org/shop. And you'll be able to find many different items. Both you can wear, notebooks, planners, cups, mugs, you have it. And again, we are a charity, so we operate off of 100% donations, sponsorships. Nobody's getting paid on our board. In fact, I've invested just about close to 100% of what you have seen with the organization as we pivoted from an event only to an organization. So yeah, we're starting something, and we're going to continue on that route. As you know, I'm a doer. In the last 30 days, we have knocked out 16 plus episodes to the world. We started 2025, as you notice, with some authority. So thank you for being a part of Voices for Voices. We're happy to have you with us, whether this is your first episode or whether this, at this point, over 176 episodes. We love you all the same. Thank you for viewing, watching, listening. So yeah, we want to, in this episode, we want to bring this conversation about music, the voice, because some of us are able to articulate our voice by playing a musical instrument. And I remember the show still out there. I believe it's called The Voice. No matter how we feel about celebrities, if it's real or not, the show starts out with the chairs being turned around. So an individual comes out and, or a group comes out and sings and plays a song. The judges' backs are to the stage, and the judges have to hit a button whether they want to have their chair spin around and have the option to have that individual join their team, or they don't. Or if their team is full, then they obviously can't add more members to the team than is laid out in the show. They could also trade down the line, team to team, singer for singer, etc. But anyways, the show's called The Voice, and the individuals, they're singing, and the only way they get these celebrity judges to select them and try to fight for that performer to be on their team is by their voice, is by singing. And that was one of my dad's favorite shows. He'd watch a lot with my mom. They have conversations. Their days, some days, their days would revolve around the timing of the show. What time it would be airing. Sometimes it didn't. They like to do that and make sure to, especially to be around for the playoffs, the future rounds of the show. And so they wanted to be home, or if they were at somebody else's house, they would try to rush home safely, or they would watch the show at whoever's house they were at. Again, in that show, it's called The Voice. there's music involved. So that's a really good setting for us to really wrap up. We previously aired and are out there two other episodes around the specifics of music and the individual, the human voice. So we're talking about music, and that was a show that was and still is for my mom. The a show that they liked. My mom still likes it. My father, he has passed, but I'm sure he's watching down from heaven, and he's picking who he wants to be on particular teams, or when it gets towards the end, who's going to win or who's going to get past a particular round of the playoffs. And so that's another way music really kind of came into our lives and as a family. And I would also watch it too when I was living at home, or if I was teaching and it was closer to where my parents resided. Then that would generally be on a Thursday, and Thursday would uh, or Wednesdays and other days of the week. But I distinctly remember Wednesdays and Thursdays. At the beginning, the show being on those days, and so I'd come home from teaching, and the show would be on, or it would just be starting. Uh, so it's about the spoken word, the singing, the music behind it, and when we're going to get into some of these parts, it is going to be a little bit rough for me. So I mean, I'm going to be emotional as we've seen. So just wanted to let you know. Uh, but the music, how music really impacts us and still impacts me to this day. Even just liking to listen to music, to be, mowing the yard and have the headphones on and listening to music. Just one example. Uh, if there's a concert on one of the channels that we have, I'll sometimes listen to a song or two, watch a song or two, and if I have a little bit more time, I'll have many times on in the background as I'm working a concert of one of my favorite bands, and one of those is Third Eye Blind from the '90s, and they've had a resurgence here the last couple of years. Uh, so I'm not gonna rehash any of our past episodes. We're going to jump right into when I was in college and early actually in high school. And that was the point when as had been lightly mentioned, where I, for one of my birthdays, one of my gifts was an electric guitar. I was in a band for a short period of time. I was taking guitar lessons. We and the band I was in for the short period of time, we would play a couple house parties, and then one of the trauma points for me was showing up for band practice and being kind of locked out of the house, and not really told that I wasn't in the band anymore, but basically you're not in the band anymore. So that was for me, that was a traumatic time of things I thought were going well, and apparently they weren't. And so that was a trauma point. Uh, and then I started to go to, these clubs as a teenager, like these, the teen clubs like I talked about, the grind that I chatted about, uh, the teeny bobber clubs where you have to be obviously less than 18, and there's particular age ranges you have to be in to even have access to that. But music was kind of the first draw for me to that, because there was music being played. It was albeit pretty loud, and was at uh, my wife and I. We were at our daughter's Uh, they had a family dance the other night, and I was just reminded on how loud the music can be played in the gym, uh, and it really took me back a little bit to kind of earlier years, and maybe that was a little bit of part of the reasons why alcohol and substances really were playing a part in that part of my life, was the help maybe drown out some of the loud bumping music. And I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there. So yeah, these clubs, they were typically on Fridays and Saturdays. If there were holidays, they would add a day, usually around that, maybe an extra day during holidays. Uh, and so that was something I would do. And so when we talk about the substances, the alcohol abuse, and that aspect of the club, mention, at the club that there's music being played, and depending on the type of club, it could be played through the speakers without an actual band playing, or it could be a club where a band would play and there would be instruments played and singing, or it could be strictly instruments. So there's a multitude of types of clubs. I'm just giving my experiences with the types of clubs. So yeah, at the clubs, there's music, and you're dancing to the music, and that's kind of like a little bit of the underlying part. So while there was that substance abuse and alcohol abuse that was kind of getting kicked off, I still enjoyed going there. Talking about the music, it was a place I could listen to some popular music uh, that I had listened to when I wasn't at the particular club. Um, whether I was just hanging out at the house or with some friends or at a house party, or some people that I thought were friends at the time. So the music played that way, good or bad. And then as I was in college, and then even out of college for several years, there were the adult clubs, the first at 18 and over, and then went to 21. Then you're able to consume alcohol legally at the particular establishments. Uh, and that was really what my weekend really revolved around. So back to high school, and it kind of the teen dance club, yeah, as my weekend would revolve around that. I may not go to that club both Friday and Saturday. If my mind reminds me, and maybe that they were only open Friday or Saturdays. I'm not really sure, so I won't go into that because I'm super foggy on what a regular weekend would look like at that particular type of club. And then that, as I just mentioned, as I got older in college and out of college, my uh, my life to a big extent was revolving around substances, alcohol, and clubs and girls. Uh, so I think that's what partly led to uh, my seclusion. And actually, seclusion was the name of one of the first band that I was in, and it was actually at my high school. It was the high school band director. He played the drums, which was super super cool to do that. And we even had a house party at our house on the deck, and he came over, had his drums, and I mean it was awesome to have him. And then a friend. That Mark Ruby, that I went to school with, played sports with for a period. He was the singer. I was playing the guitar, and then the band director, he was playing the drums. So uh, it was uh, it was cool. But with that, we just played one with that particular group. We played one time after one of the home football games, and so we were called Seclusion. And so looking back on how I was kind of secluding myself of consuming substances and really kind of I'll say getting lost in my own mind, but really being hard nosed about what I did or what I wasn't doing. Wasn't popular in high school. Wasn't the person getting invited with all the cool groups or the cool cliques of people. So when I did find a couple of individuals that I started to hang out with, uh, we kind of did our own thing. And so it was, for the most part, three or four of us that were kind of doing that, doing our thing, I guess, as opposed to, and so we were going to that club and trying to find ways to get alcohol so we could get drunk and do all that stuff, which I'm not entirely proud of. But that was the case. So that was happening. And so not only with the substances, kind of abusing those frequently, there were relationships, taking advantage of people in relationships, not being around with as many family or other gatherings that I should have been. I was constantly thinking, okay, because I had really bad acne. I had braces twice, so I have them for the third time now, which they're going to be coming off here soon. So really excited about that. Uh, so I wasn't the best in relationships. Just the way things were, from being a son to a nephew to it, whatever the title would be, and it was, as I look back, just not good times. I was just making poor decisions, doing things, trying to live for the moment, trying to think about how I was feeling, not others. And so if I wanted to get high or I wanted to get drunk or if I wanted to hang out with this individual and not this other individual, I would do that. And I would do things on my own timing. And I really just just wasn't in a good spot. Uh, and that was one of the biggest things I had to come to grips with. 2017 when I was in the hospital. There's so many people I have hurt along the way. I tried to make amends as much as possible, but I've tried, and a lot of those have failed miserably. So here I am at 43. If I went to school with you, if I met you out somewhere at some point, and I wasn't the kindest to you, I apologize. Uh, wish things could have been different on my end, but that's where we're at. So music continued out of those times, that I spoke about, the clubs, the substances, etc. That hit rock bottom in 2017. Music still was big, but prior to 2017, and this is where I mentioned Third Eye Blind previously. Uh, they were one of my favorite bands. I was able to meet them, luckily, over the years. Got a couple of photos with them, and it was at a Third Eye Blind concert that I had one of like my biggest panic attacks. They came to Canton, which was the closest to where I was living, and my wife, we were living. And so it was like this cool thing. We were gonna go see Third Eye Blind. They were close, so we didn't have to travel very far. And I had a panic attack, two, 3 songs in, and had to leave. And then we went back home, and then I consumed alcohol. Uh, and I wasn't eating, I wasn't taking care of myself the way I should. I had just a lot of things that uh, I had to work through, and that's kind of where that was at. So now when I watch concerts or I go to my friend Mr. Kittrell Chin, when he plays with it's called First Snow. It's a Trans-Siberian Orchestra cover band. They've been blessed to by the Trans-Siberian Orchestra to play their music kind of verbatim. And so when I go to his show, I was able to go with my mom and dad 2 years ago. So I'm real glad that dad was able to go uh, that time. And this past year, I went twice. I went once was closer to where my wife and daughter and I where we live, and then once it was closer to where my mom and dad. And so I asked mom, and so it was neat to be able to take her to a show. Her and my dad, a lot of times one of the gifts that they would get each other would be concert tickets, to Maroon 5 or Train or Elton John. And a lot of times, as my dad was learning to use the computer and that to purchase tickets, he would ask me, hey, could I want to take your mom to this particular band show, and it's the tickets are on sale, and can you help me get them? And so I know music was big, and with my dad, and then I was with mom and my sister, my daughter, me with my wife, and as uh, as early as being not even 16 years old, harken back to a Third Eye Blind concert, one of the first concerts. My mom, my dad, my sister, myself, we went to Disney for a couple days. Disney World down in Florida, and Third Eye Blind was playing at the House of Blues, which is downtown Disney, which I think it's Disney Springs now. Anyways, it was close to where we were staying as a hotel, and so we got tickets, and I'm still blown away. I think they might have been $13, and the three bands, it was Third Eye Blind, they were the headliner, Eve Six, and Our Lady Peace. And nowadays to have three bands like that, it would be a lot more. So we had general admission seats. My sister went with me, and we were able to actually get the front row standing. And I remember the last song. Uh, I mean, I was just mesmerized by the music, by watching the band members play their instruments, the guitars, the keyboards, the bass, the tambourine, the drums, what have you. And I remember it was the last song Third Eye Blind was playing is God of Wine. It's the last song on their debut album. And at the end, Stephen Jenkins, the lead singer of Third Eye Blind, he has a tambourine and he starts, playing it towards the last third of the song. And he was walking around the stage singing, playing the tambourine. And there was like a split second where he looked over and made eye contact, and he did a couple taps of the tambourine, and here's me like reaching, like I don't know if I was trying to reach for the tambourine or just to uh, get an autograph or what, but it was one of those moments where uh, that that was a big moment just from a music standpoint. And to this day I remember, and that's 30 something, uh, close to 30 years ago that actually happened. Uh, and so that might be a part of why they've remained to be one of my favorite bands. I lean more towards their older music than what they do now. but that's just me. So that's the the oldies, I guess now, like being 43 and talking about bands that were popular in the 90s and now coming back around these reunion tours or playing, their first or their popular or their greatest hit albums. And uh, so that was cool to be able to do that, to be that close, to kind of witness not only the hearing, listening of the music and watching the instruments, but just having that one of those moments, and I can't really describe it. I mean, I described the actual event, but it was one of those moments, like the Phil Collins unplugged moment that I had at my mom and dad's house when I was growing up, and which led to me having an interest in playing a musical instrument, guitar, and then I was gifted with a guitar for my birthday. I was able to be in a couple bands. Even though those don't didn't work out, just to be able to do that and get that experience was just neat. And yeah, so as we come to a come to a close, one of the things with my dad passing, and when individuals pass, if they decide to have a service or not, some people do, some people don't. Some families do, some families don't. Uh, but one of the parts of the calling hour service at the funeral home, there were they were able to play music over the speakers, and so it's not a huge deal, but there's music being played. So music kind of from as I can remember at my earliest age, and then with my dad passing, having music being played at the calling hours and his favorite songs, Carrie Underwood, "How Great Thou Art," uh, and as I talk about getting emotional, uh, after my dad had passed at the house, we put the "How Great Thou Art," the Carrie Underwood, the version that she sings, uh, and it, so that was how one of the ways we wanted to honor him by playing his favorite song. So it was definitely it's all emotional. People talk about, do you really get over it? And it's just going on a year. I don't think I'm ever going to get over it, and that's okay. We're all human beings, and don't let anybody tell you, well, you should just be able to get power through this. Uh, and so tying that music in to not only the calling hours, but then we actually had a mass at church, and there was music that was playing there too. Uh, and, and so music is just embedded with us as human beings. That's the goal. That's the reason uh, why I did this episode. We're talking about voices for voices, and one of the ways of sharing a voice is by playing an instrument, singing. Uh, so it definitely it feeds right in to who we are as an organization. But I wanted to bring personal experiences, and so uh, this now third episode that did on and around music and how powerful it is, just human to human. Uh, Felt it was a good time to go over this, and you'll be seeing and hearing some of the songs I'll be playing uh, at a different date on social media. So until next time, be a voice for you or somebody in need.